Hey guys, ArcliteTankSC here, and I'm bringing you a game. Finally, it's been so long. It's been Christmas break, and everybody's been all messed up over Christmas break on YouTube. And I wasn't really related to YouTube, but just I've been really busy and really lazy. So today I've got an awesome game for you guys, which I haven't viewed yet, so I don't really know that. I'm kind of talking on my ass, but it should be awesome because the players. HuK is an awesome Protoss, and this game is pretty long. And when you have a long game with a really good player, that means that it's a really kind of a macro battle, but there's also going to be a lot of good little things going on. It's not like the medium level players where you might see a couple big battles and then some little thing that finishes them off. Normally it's really awesome with players of HuK's level. And we've also got a really good player down here, IMJunwiPirme. I haven't looked him up, but I have heard a lot of his name thrown around. So hopefully we'll be seeing a good game, and it looks like he is at 10 supply now, so we should be seeing a scout pretty soon from him, as far as a drone maybe. But it looks like his Overlord is going to be heading into HuK space, and basically what he wants to do is bring the vision of this Overlord to tag the Nexus just a little bit so that he can see it and then leave. But HuK is going to send a probe towards where he knows that Overlord's coming from, and he is going to scout it. Brilliant play there, using that probe to see your opponent early. Before he can get in that little sneak view. So IMJunwiPirme is probably just going to fly this Overlord right in, like, hey guys, what's up? Not drop some creep on him because he doesn't have the lair yet, but that would be cool, seeing probes like creep. Okay, so it looks like we're seeing a pretty standard play from HuK, and this is a pretty good distance. It'll allow him some freedom of building, which Day9 talks about that all the time, where according to Day9 he should have it maybe a little bit over here where he can put an extra gateway in this area. But right now what is really going on is HuK is actually scouting IMJunwiPirme's base, and it looks like he's going to see a very tricky situation where we look at IMJunwiPirme. He does have 14 supply, and he is going for a hatchery, which HuK did not scout that because that went down after the probe entered the base. But what he's seeing inside the base is there's not enough drones for a 15 or 16 hatch, but there's not the right configuration in larva and eggs for a 14 anything. So it looks like we're going to see HuK heading out of the base now, and he is going to scout this hatchery, and he is going to put down a pylon here. So normally we see this to block the hatchery, but a lot of times when you see pylons like this, you can use two of them, which he is doing right now, to block off the bottom of the ramp. So that's awesome. He's isolated this expansion. He's cut off two drones from the interior of the base, and they will not be able to get in there because they cannot do the pylon trick. And it looks like there are three of them. They're going to try and take out the pylon, but as it's building, it's coming up, and it's going to be a while before they can actually take that down. And it looks like we're seeing cannon from HuK. So if HuK puts down a cannon right now, these probes would absolutely have to take out these pylons immediately. But it looks like HuK is going to do some good micro. He's going to fight them with his probes, and the drones are going to fall back. Drones are still attacking the pylons. Drones need to kill these pylons or kill that cannon right now, because otherwise IMJunwiPirme is trapped inside of his base with three of his drones outside of it, which is very bad. It looks like he's going to try and kill the probes, which that may be one of his best bets, because at least he can hurt his opponent's economy a little bit, and he can stop this build from getting really expansive and doing anything more than just a little annoyance in the early game. It looks like another cannon going down. So awesome for HuK, not awesome for IMJunwiPirme, because this means that these cannons will definitely be coming in with the first one spawning in right about now. Just going not transparent, and it looks like it's going to pop up just in time to catch one drone on the tail, not killing it. But it looks like we're just going to see HuK cancel the one cannon that he had coming in here, and we'll probably see him re-wall this after he scouts it. So awesome play there. Definitely did some damage to his opponent by locking those probes out, and it really took a lot of mining time away from IMJunwiPirme. So IMJunwiPirme's response, it looks like it's going to be another hatchery, and we're not seeing speed yet. He doesn't even have his gas yet, so that may have even thrown his early game micro off, which that is very vital, because if you forget to throw down an extractor and you're trying to go speedling, that can really throw off your game for the rest of the game, because you're sitting there, trying to catch up with gas, trying to get things caught up, and then when you should have speedling to fight your opponent's stalkers, you just got slowlings, and boom, 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 they're all dead, and I'm getting a text message. I'm ignoring that flex serve. If you're watching this video, stop texting me while I'm casting. I'm going to feel really bad if that's not you. But it looks like HuK is going for double gas now. So normally when we see double gas, that could be some kind of stalkers, but not this early. Normally we'll see just a single gas. But, what I would bank on is maybe Void Rays or Dark Templars or something like that. But that's me being used to scouting in Gold League, where this is definitely Void Ray if you're in Gold League, normally. is if you could scout a cybernetics core, which IMJunwiPirme did not see. So this is kind of a tricky situation because Huck can go a multitude of ways with this, but this double gas is very indicative of something very gas heavy, maybe even Dark Templars, who knows at this moment, because the cybernetics core is just now down, and it will be a little bit till it finishes. It's a pretty quick building, but you know, there's still a small amount of time here, and it looks like we're going to see IMJunwiPirme pushing forward on Huck's cannon, and there is just a single probe here. It's not like it can repair or anything. These are not Terran, and he doesn't want to lose this queen. I don't know. You know what? There's the motive. He wants to put damage on the queen, but not enough to kill her, which he needs to hurry up. He may lose his queen. The cannon finally shooting at Zerglings, which that's a good decision by Huck, because, you know, IMJunwiPirme would have been able to pull back this queen just in time, and looks like the Zerglings are going to take out that pylon with lower losses than it would have been definitely if they had just sent the queen straight in, or just sent the Zerglings straight in and taken all those shots straight to the Zerglings. The queen definitely absorbed a lot of the damage, and she still lives, so good play there. Let's take a look at the production tab, see what's coming in. And it looks like we're going to see ground weapons 1 and sentries. So that's something I forgot to mention. Double gas is very good for sentries while you're teching up to that high-tech build, or getting ready for that stalker build, because sentries, you know, if you look at them, they're 100 gas and 50 minerals, so very mineral light. It's like building a probe. And then you've got a very heavy gas component for a very powerful unit. So, you know, if you have that excess gas, you can spend it on those units and get a very good army composition, especially with zealots against speedlings. And you know, you always need sentries against speedlings, unless you're like Void Ray or Phoenix or something that absolutely just destroys them on its own. You know, you need that because then you can split them up, you can push them off your units, especially when you're using Stalker, which is a bad idea against Zergling. But Zealot is very good, especially when combined with that, because you can kind of cut the alleyways to the Zealots so that Zerglings are forced to come in a very awkward position for them. And it looks like we're seeing Huck put a pylon here now, and you know, this is just good because he can bring units in here later if he needs to, or maybe it's a little bit closer than his base, but not really, because he can send them right down here and have them almost at Junwi's base. So Junwi now with a double hatchery, so this is a like hardcore Zerglings. Yeah, I'm surprised he hasn't taken his units off the gas yet, because he has 200 gas, which he is not using for anything. Maybe he's saving up. A lot of times when we see that, we see a player getting ready to go mute a late game or transition to the Hydra. So that's the type of late game thinking that's really good. So now we're seeing IMJunwiPirme's Overlord get killed by these sentries. So sentries can attack air and ground. Great units. And it looks like Huck is throwing down the gateways. He is really getting ready to throw out a pretty intense army. And he is expanding, so it's not going to be some kind of all-in or anything like that cheesy. And it will give him a pretty good macro for later in the game. And his unit composition is very good, which if we take a look at the units on the map, we've got 7 Zerglings against 3 sentries and a Zealot. That's awesome for Huck. And IMJunwiPirme, you know, he has a lot of production where he can macro up an army pretty quickly, and he is finally going for that lair, which he needs to get more gas income for anything lair attack. And, you know, he really has a small army, but that's not really a big deal if he's reading his opponent correctly, because we do see small armies fielded, and both players have this massive production that they're getting ready to enact and push to the front. But what we see is IMJunwiPirme did have the Xel'Naga Watchtowers, and it looks like he's going to pull his units off just in time for Huck not to see them. And it looks like he is going to come in now, let Huck know that he scouted this army, and what we should be seeing from IMJunwiPirme is a lot of production of Zerglings, possibly. Actually, not really. Looks like he's going to take the other route. He's going to go for spine crawlers, which can hold this army off very effectively, because those force fields really have absolutely no effect on spine crawlers. And this is very sentry heavy army, but it looks like Huck could be in position to win if he micros correctly. So, you know, this is a very vital point in this game. And we do see IMJunwiPirme going for a lot of gas, which you definitely need gas if you want to produce those good units. Like Mutas is what we see a lot from Zerg players, because it offers such a great harass against probes with those blades that jump. So it's awesome. It looks like IMJunwiPirme is going to pick off a single Zealot, which Zealot against Zerglings is very bad. Zealots chop through Zerglings like nothing. And it looks like this Spinecrawler is going to finish probably just in time to catch the later end of this assault. And it looks like Huck is going to push on the first Spinecrawler. He's going going to have to worry about Zerglings getting around to his sentries. It looks like Zerglings are going to head around to the sentries. Drones coming in, drones attacking the sentries, and it looks like these Spine Cultures are just kind of going into overdrive attacking units. They're not going to be good enough to keep this out. He needs those Zerglings. He's finally got Zerglings to the front. He needs to kill that Zealot, kill the Zealot, and he's got this army pretty much. If he can stay on top of it, he's got this army. These sentries are not going to be good enough to kill this army, and it looks like they're going to force field trying to find their way out, but it looks like he just trapped 2 of them in the middle, and those Zerglings are just going to be able to pretty much sit there and, you know, get shot at, but they'll be able to wait and capture this unit when it finally does come out. But it did successfully protect itself, you know. It was able to shoot the Zerglings. I like this. This is a pretty cool idea, to go like this and just build a fortress around your sentries and allow them to shoot out. He got probably a lot more kills from that than he should have, and it looks like he is going to push them back against the wall, and he's going to do the same thing with the force field again, pinning it against the wall where the Zerglings can't get it, and the Zerglings are just going to sit there and get shot one by one by one, and this is awesome. This is just a use of a sentry to its maximum potential. 5 kills, so that's in Zerglings. That's what, 2 times, that's about 100 worth of minerals, 125, and it looks like he is finally going to get cornered and killed, so very good for that sentry. You know, he didn't really pay for himself in net resources, I guess you could say, but he did in minerals. And it looks like we're seeing a lot more Zealots, which Zealots will definitely be able to handle any Zergling play, because Zealots just chop through Zerglings. That's what they were born to do. And it looks like there is finally the lairs here, and a Spire is on the way. So Spires, or Mutalisks, which come from the Spire, not really, but Mutalisks chop through Zealots, which is what they're born to do. So, you know, we definitely need to see some Stalker. We definitely need to see some scouting from Huck, where he can take a look at that spot and see what's going on. But it looks like he's going to creep in here with a Phoenix, actually a hallucinated Phoenix, and he is going to see the Spire, definitely. So that is awesome for Huck. He needed that because now he knows what he needs to do. And, you know, Stalker and Phoenix are very good against Mutalisks, which he's not in a position to take up a Phoenix build, but Stalkers is, you know, he's really set up for it. He can transition to it almost immediately. He's got pretty good mineral income. Taking a look at income, he does have very good mineral income, and his gas is equal to IMJunwiPirme's, which should be more than enough to run a Stalker build. So, as far as income, we're seeing something very odd. There's more harvesters for Huck, but he is bringing in, or more harvesters for IMJunwiPirme, but Huck is bringing in more, and Huck moving forward, his sentries are out of position, not good for the sentries, and it looks like they are going to force field themselves, cutting off some of the attack routes of the Zerglings. Zerglings are just being fed to Zealots, crazy, and IMJunwiPirme definitely needs to fall back off of this, because Huck is going to be able to absolutely destroy this army, because Huck has such a high concentration of Zealots in that army that it will just melt through anything with Zerglings in it. And this is why we're seeing a higher income for Huck. IMJunwiPirme has got a ton of units. We see this so much in pro games, and I do not know why, in pro and higher level, where they've got this oversaturated natural, where they got just drones flying back and forth, not knowing where to get minerals, and then you look inside their main, and it's just a calm scene of maybe like 1 drone to a patch right here. Not good for his macro, and it looks like this is, however, very good for his macro. He's going to take 2 bases, so it looks like Huck kind of has the advantage at the moment. He's got better unit composition. He's putting out a lot of production. He's getting ready to transition to something very heavy, but IMJunwiPirme is positioning to take a late game advantage, which Huck needs to see these, which he does have a pylon here positioned to take this out as soon as he sees it. Huck needs to see these, and then Huck can definitely move in and do some killing. And Huck will see this shortly after it does pop out, because, you know, the hatchery puts that huge circle of creep around it, which when you're trying to hide an expansion, that sucks for Zerg, because I've been in that position so many times where I'll be like, oh, this is an awesome place. Oh, no, wait, my creep's going to show everybody where my hatchery is. So, it looks like a hallucinated Phoenix just inches away from seeing that base, but he's just going to sit there and fizzle out. And, you know, there are finally Mutalisks. They did get kind of pushed away by these Stalkers, not really doing much in there inside of the base. And it looks like I thought I saw Colossus leg, but no, I am hallucinating. Overtired, not good. So, no Colossus, just to be clear. And we are seeing a, you know, something that IMJunwiPirme does have, even though his army is maybe not as good as Huck's, is he does have mobility, which, if you ask Day 9, their mobility is a very important thing, which, if you guys don't know who Day 9 is and why I'm referencing this guy so much, he is pretty much the StarCraft teacher. You know, he's got Day 9 TV, you can go look him up. He does the Day 9 Daily, where he pretty much analyzes a game and tells you a ton of strategy and analysis, which is kind of different from the shoutcast I kind of do, even though I do throw in a lot of strategy. But looks like we have Huck building a ton of cannons at his natural. And, you know, this is probably worth it. 450 minerals, and he is pretty much ensured that nothing is going to pick on his probes. He doesn't have to worry about that. And on top of that, IMJunwiPirme just wasted a ton of money, which it looks like the creep is heading out now. Let's take a look at HuK. And HuK is not seeing creep yet, but he may be able to catch it off the very end of that. So let's take a look at everyone again, and that creep is just slowly moving out. And IMJunwiPirme, you know, he doesn't have any military forces really stationed here ready to take it up, and he's moving a lot of drones out. So we should see income come up for him, even though he is actually behind in harvesters. Now HuK has caught up and gone ahead of him, because it is really easy for Protoss to macro up a drone force as well as an army. And look what we are seeing now. Where is this Templar archives? Because it is producing Storm, and Templars are coming in. High Templars. So this will do an amazing job against pretty much everything that IMJunwiPirme has fielded, because, you know, Zerglings just melt under the Storm, and then, you know, even Mutalisks in a massive group like this, when you can drop a Storm on top of them, it can do a lot of damage. And it looks like we're going to see these Zerglings falling back away from IMJunwiPirme, away from HuK's front door. HuK moving out. The Mutalisks are just heading in, going to pick off a lot of Zealots. Stalkers aren't there yet. Sentries are kind of out of position. They're heading straight for the Templars. Templars storming on top of themselves. Not good for HuK. HuK could have had a lot better positioning here. Blink Stalkers heading right under them, and the Templars are all picked off, so no Storms except for those two on top of the Templars. Not very good. And, you know, something that all the commentators say, and I'll say it again, just in case you haven't heard it, is very vital. You have to storm the dots under the Mutalisk, not the actual Mutalisk. So if I click here, I'm going to miss about half this army, basically. So, you know, let's take a look at this expansion, and we should see HuK seeing creep now. Let's take a look at numero uno, and yes, he does see creep, but HuK is moving in on the northern expansion first, the farthest one from IMJunwiPirme, because he knows that there can be pretty much no defense here, and he doesn't have Zealot legs. That surprises me with such a massive quantity of Zealots in his army, and he's just going to chew right through this thing. But we do have IMJunwiPirme kind of scooting around the map here. You know, he's probably going to come in and pick this off, or maybe something like that, maybe even worse. He's the pro player, I'm the caster. But looks like he's going to head and fly right over my target, and maybe he's going for the minerals. No, he's going to take it out. High five, IMJunwiPirme. We actually planned that one. So there he goes. He is going to take out that pylon, and that will affect the supply block. If turn around and shoot it. What are you doing? He's going back to save his expansion. He could have supply blocked HuK, but HuK is going to move in now, killing a ton of drones. Let's highlight these so we can watch them melt. We missed most of the melting, but as far as highlighting, but we caught it all on the screen. So it looks like he's going to be able to take this out. A pretty good investment here with the extractors and all the drones that went down. And now we do have an army moving in. It looks like it's going to be drones and Mutalisks. Not a great composition there, but the Mutalisks are good. They will be able to take out the Stalkers. Stalkers do not have very many upgrades. They have one attack, and the Mutalisks do too. So that's not a very good matchup for the Mutalisks. They are going to lose a lot over such a small engagement that HuK has forced on him. So great there, and it looks like he's just picking them off one by one. Stalker's blinking again, and it looks like they're going to kill the hatchery. So that's exactly what HuK wanted to do. He could care less about killing Mutalisks. He killed a hatchery, and that is awesome, because now he is tied with his opponent. But his opponent does have an earlier gold expansion, high yield expansion, so we could see a little bit of an advantage here. But HuK is also going for it. He has knocked down the rocks. He's just got to move a probe out there and take it. And it looks like he's moving in a couple different directions. And here we go. He's going to take out the pylon and no supply block. Actually, let's take a look. Yeah, there is a supply block, actually. Sorry about that. I had the wrong guy selected. But there is a supply block. You never want to be a supply block. That's always a pain in the butt when you want to build a huge army. But he does have a lot of army on the field already. So this could be very, very deadly against Mutalisks. So, you know, or if he even just pushed on this base. But this is what we see Zerg players doing a lot. And I missed this earlier because there's just so much going on. Is putting these spine crawlers all along their front. Because basically when your enemy attacks, they can get hit by those spine crawlers, and it looks like we're seeing IMJunwiPirme move in on the Nexus, but not taking it out. You know, he's kind of got to fall back, seeing all those Stalkers coming in, but he does want to stop this, because that would mean he is in the economic lead, definitely, as soon as he is one hatchery ahead of his opponent, especially a high yield. You know, that's absolutely what he needs. And his hatchery is just finishing now, so he can start mining there. Lots of drones heading out. Gonna start bringing in the money. Getting him some cheese. And it looks like the Roaches are pushing forward. Roaches awesome against Zealots. But there are a ton of Zealots, and they are upgraded, and the Roaches are not. And it looks like we're gonna see Mutalisks moving in now. Mutalisks getting stormed like crazy. Mutalisks taking a ton of damage. Let's throw life bars on a second. Mutalisks pretty damaged. Zealots are very damaged from fighting these Roaches, but Roaches are in good condition. And, you know, IMJunwiPirme just had to move back because of that storm. It did a ton of damage to those Mutalisks, and you don't want a ton of damaged Mutalisks. You want a ton of awesome Mutalisks. And that is why he had to fall back. Not enough awesome Mutalisks. So we're seeing IMJunwiPirme just coming into the space and taking minerals, not taking the gas, which it looks like his army is definitely very, very mineral heavy. Not as much gas heavy, even though there are Mutalisks. You know, it's mostly Roach that he's kind of focusing on as far as his production now, as he is going for the underground movement, and he did get the global reduction, or whatever it is, just to increase his speed. And let's take a look at HuK. HuK now with the gateway underpowered and close to supply block, and if we see IMJunwiPirme take this out, HuK will be supply blocked. Not good if you're trying to bring in units to fight off Mutalisks, and it looks like there are going to be 2 Stalkers coming in. But IMJunwiPirme is going to be able to pick them off, but they will be able to delay the army. Blink Stalkers moving in right under the Mutalisks. 1, 2 Mutalisks getting sniped. 3 Mutalisks getting sniped. Not being able to do anything. It looks like a 4 Mutalisks snipe. And all that just to 5 Mutalisks down now just to depower 1 gateway and pick off a Stalker. Not good. 5 Mutalisks, very expensive. 500 minerals, 500 gas. That could have been an expansion. That could have been so much. It looks like they're going to move in again, and another one getting picked off. IMJunwiPirme, no. You know, you don't want to fight Stalkers with Mutalisks. I know that wasn't his intention, but it's what he ended up doing because HuK made him, and that's good play. That's the good play is when you choose what your opponent does, not what you do, you know. And I don't know, I sound like I'm trying to be some kind of StarCraft philosopher now. But whatever. It looks like there's some drones just kind of heading around here, going into enemy territory. That's what drones do. You know, that's what they're good at. I mean, all he had here was maybe a few larvae that he hatched. That's the only reason I could think he had these guys moving towards his base again. Maybe they were still up there from when that base got destroyed. But he does have this base going back up, and he should have it up and running very soon. But something he's got to worry about, he doesn't have a very, very large army. He does have, you know, quite a bit of roaches. But against Stalker, roaches just melt. Because here's what I want to point out to you guys. Roaches are ground and armored. Right there. Armored biological. Now let's take a look at Stalkers. And Stalkers do plus 15 versus armored when they're upgraded to his current upgrades. So that's a ton of extra damage, more than doubling their base damage against armored units. So, you know, it still is a lot of zealots, but these Stalkers just absolutely chew right through Roach. And it looks like he's going to push forward. He needs to have his units in good positioning, because that's what HuK has messed up with so far. His positioning has been horrible this game. You know, there's a few opportunities where he could have just completely stomped IMJunwi, and it looks like there's going to be a dual attack. There's going to be a huge drop by IMJunwi. Huge drop going on inside of HuK's space. HuK is going to be in position to blink back into his base, but leaving half of his army behind. But this is the half he needs inside of his base. He's trying to pick off Overlords before the drop is completed, but it looks like most of the drop is going down. Roach is now pushing towards Stalkers. Stalkers very effective against the Roaches, picking off the Roaches like crazy. The Roaches are upgraded 1-1, while Stalkers are upgraded 1-0-0. So it looks like the upgrades are going to take a huge role in this game. He's killing a lot of Roaches, but a lot of Stalkers are also being lost. And a couple of them are moving in on perps, but you know, a lot of Stalkers being brought in. He does have a ton of gateways. HuK bringing in a ton of Stalkers. It was 5 just a second ago. And Burrow Roaches are going to be scouted by an Overseer. Get them out of the ground, even though they're healing. They're not healing fast enough because they are being shot. And it looks like a lot of Roaches are going to go down. There's such a tremendous amount of Stalkers here. And now HuK is in position to win this game. He's in position to push forward into IMJunwiPirme's base and take the game if he can. If IMJunwiPirme has to focus right now on macroing up another army, and you know, Speedlings just wreck. They just wreck Stalker. Sorry, just fumbling there a little bit. And it looks like there's going to be a lot of storms on top of these Roaches and the Mutas. All these units in very, very bad disrepair. Look at those health bars, and look at HuK's health bars. They're just awesome. So this is the time when you want to pitch, when you want to pit Zealots against Roaches, and when the Roaches are just extremely, extremely weak, and your Zealots are like just brand new. And it looks like he is also bringing in Archon. He might have been able to let those guys recharge before the next battle, but it's normally a good idea to bring in those Archons so that you have that extra splash damage, and you know, you don't have just a couple Templars sitting there like drained batteries waiting to recharge. It looks like he's going to push forward, but there's a lot of spine crawlers here waiting for him. Maybe he could blink into here. That would be
awesome. He'd just be able to do so much damage to the roaches and Mutalisk, which I'm not even sure why he has these Zealots. Zealots will be great for taking damage from the Spine Crawlers, though. He needs to send them forward now, and the Zealots heading forward now. Mutalisk heading around the back of the army, just finding a ton of Stalkers there, and a lot of roaches popping out now. It looks like they're going to be in perfect position to take out the Zealots. Zealots moving on to the Spine Crawlers, doing minimal damage to the Spine Crawlers, and it looks like the Stalkers now targeting the roaches. Stalkers doing a ton of damage to the roaches. All the Spine Crawlers just doing damage to the Zealots. Zealots are no concern, though, of HuK. They do not matter in this battle. HuK's Stalkers just throwing down a ton of damage, but there are so many roaches on this field right now that it is just a overwhelming amount, and that is how you beat Stalker also, other than Zergling, is an overwhelming amount of roach, and it looks like the final Spine Crawler is about to go down, and there it goes, about one shot away from dying, or 2 shots rather, and it looks like the roaches are moving around the back, just about 4 of them in the back, and HuK just doing a lot of damage, putting a lot of damage out, but this army is just regenerating so quickly that he's not going to be able to take the win on this push, and he is going to have to retreat to preserve most of his army, and lots of Zerglings out now, so Speedlings will be able to pick at those Stalkers as they walk away. And Stalkers might just do better now, just turning around and maybe putting on a few force fields from those sentries and just doing as much damage as he can. But it looks like he's falling back. He is bringing in more Stalkers. It would have been better if he could bring in a few Zealots to deal with Zerglings. But Stalkers are good too, and he's leaving one behind so that the units fight those, while he can regroup his units, moving forward with Stalkers. All of the units are attacking this one group of Stalkers, and he just got another one sitting there shooting. Roach has now moved forward, and he needs to move more of the Stalkers forward so that they can get a full range of attack on the Roach. Blinking forward, doing a ton of damage, picking off a bunch of Roaches. Awesome play there. Blink is best used on a retreating enemy. That's just amazing, a very entertaining and very effective play. When you see a player do something like that and just blink to the back of his retreating enemy and just pick off a ton of units. And it looks like we're seeing a lot more Zerglings now, but you know, not going to be enough. When you do have as many Stalkers on the field, they can put out enough damage to take out the Zerglings, which normally that's the problem, is there's enough Zerglings that you can't shoot them all because it's slow attack speed. But Roaches pushing in now on the Stalkers, and Roaches, let's take a look. They must be upgraded. It's the same upgrades as earlier. Just there are 2 upgrades now as far as damage for HuK Stalkers, and you know, this is awesome for HuK because you know, he can fire down, but there is vision, so IMJunwiPirme is going to be able to see that. IMJunwiPirme pushing forward with Roaches, maybe overextending a little bit because the Stalker numbers are very far in advance, especially with this damage upgrade that they've got now, throwing a ton of damage, especially against Armored, and HuK able to just simply blink away. So versus Armored, it's a total of 38 damage, I think that is. Or 28, sorry, 28. I added 10. It was 28 damage on level 2 upgrades. So that's awesome. He's bringing in a couple High Templar. High Templar are going to be able to throw down a ton of damage on this army, and that will definitely put the army into the red. Looks like a storm going down on top of the units, on top of the middle of the units. Units now being routed. IMJunwiPirme running back to his base. He needs to save this army so that he can preserve himself in the game, because he is taking a pretty good advantage as far as income. It looks like the battle is still going on. There is another storm. There's a lot of Zerglings here, though. Zerglings could use a storm, but they are all over the Stalkers. And it looks like we see an Archon morphing in. And it looks like we're just going to see a lot of blink play from HuK, which is what he needs to do now. He needs to kill those Zerglings blinking back from him, and then he needs to take care of the Roaches. So an Archon finally coming out, shooting, and then going back into its morphing stage. That was weird. He could use a blink. There's a blink. And he's just going to be able to tear apart Roaches like crazy. Awesome. And it looks like this has just been these guys just pushing back and forth. HuK almost kills Junwi. Junwi almost kills HuK, and it's just been going back and forth. And I would give HuK the advantage at the moment, though. And it looks like HuK is just going to do more blink play against these Zerglings. Zerglings surrounded the Archon, and they're going to be able to do a ton of damage because even with the splash, its fire rate isn't fast enough. And that's the units Zerglings are really good at, is fire rate units. And for Junwi, or for HuK rather, Colossus would be awesome right now. Which in production we don't see anything heading towards Colossus, just a little bit of macro play. And you know, it looks like at the moment IMJunwiPirme is out incoming HuK and outproducing him also. Which HuK doing what he has to now and bringing in 10 Zealots, which he definitely needs to get those Zealots back into his army. Maybe even get legs, but you know, it's kind of not necessary because he just needs them in the front to defend the Stalkers from those Zerglings, which that's what Zealots are really good at, is making little Zergling stakes. It looks like we're going to see 4 Changelings moving forward now. And HuK is definitely going to see those and kill those, but maybe not this one that's heading around the back. That's a pretty good idea. And it looks like he is going to pick off the 3 that were that direction, and there's another one here, and he's definitely going to kill it. Getting a drink there. I'm very thirsty. And it looks like IMJunwiPirme is just kind of hoarding around the Xel'Naga Watchtower. And HuK doing the same, each of them claiming one. And HuK now bringing in High Templars. So High Templars awesome. He needs those in his army. Those can throw out a ton of damage, especially with this amulet that they do have upgraded. I can tell because they're coming in with so much energy, and they can storm right off the spawn. And it looks like we're going to see IMJunwiPirme trying to flank HuK a little bit maybe, or just falling back off of the Xel'Naga Watchtower, and it looks like he's going to push in now probably. HuK just being able to walk around, and it looks like this is going to be a double-edged sword, a double-sided attack, but Stalker's just so good at blinking away from that. And there's the storm. Storm's catching the tail end of retreating units. And it looks like HuK is in a bad position because he does have two large armies kind of sandwiching his little army. And he definitely needs those storms, awesome storms, taking out a ton of Zerglings, doing a ton of damage on this army. And it looks like we're going to see Zealots taking care of the Zerglings pretty effectively. And we need more storms. Up on the front here, he needs to shoot these roaches with the storms. He does have Archons morphing in, though. The High Templars are all expended as far as their energy goes. And it looks like the first Archons are going to be coming in. Those can do a little bit of help to the battle, but, you know, not that much. And it looks like there's just so many roaches here. They're just going to be able to push on these Stalkers, but Stalkers falling back effectively, just blinking away. And now we do have HuK's other base finally up, bringing a lot of minerals, but there is creep all over it, so he's not going to be able to build, like, cannons and stuff. And we're going to see a little bit of scouting here for Junwi. He's going to be able to monitor this base, kind of. And he does have another Overlord up here, kind of crapping out creep. And what's good with that is you can send a queen up there sometimes, you know, a kind of weird play, but you could and just plant a creep tumor and kind of creep it towards them, which we haven't seen that yet, but it may be cool to watch that. So Roach is now chasing these Stalkers. It looks like the Roaches were actually heading towards the expansion, but Stalkers moving and intercepting them. Stalkers just doing a ton of damage to Roaches because they are on very good positioning. They do have that good concave, and it looks like the Roaches may have a good chance if they just turn around now, but there are High Templars backing up this army. So High Templars just so awesome at bringing in storms and killing stuff. You know, they can't even hit stuff, but they've killed so many units, especially in StarCraft 1 with those storms. You guys remember those? Where there's just like, you hear that noise from the storm, and it's like all your units are just gone. There goes your siege tanks. But we're seeing HuK now moving in with a drop. So, yeah, I can tell by looking at it that there's a lot of Zerglings and a pretty good amount of Roaches, so he's prepared for a war against Stalkers, and that is what he needs to fight, sending just a couple of units up here to keep HuK in this position, kind of distracting him. HuK not really reading into it, but he is moving back to his normal position. We do see a lot of Roaches here, so, you know, this is a very good idea, because if this drop fails, if it doesn't really kill all these units, he'll be able to head back to this other base. But 3 Templar coming in here, and they're just going to be able to storm this drop like crazy, and there goes 1 storm, and we should be seeing 2 or 3. A 3rd storm going down, but not really effective, as it only killed like 2 Zerglings. But looks like Roaches and Zerglings are just going to be dropped all over the base. He doesn't want to drop them by the cannons. Don't do that. Bad idea. He needs to drop them somewhere where he can do damage or take out infrastructure or at least fight the army. Looks like he's going to lose quite a bit of Overlords. Maybe supply blocking him actually at the moment. And it looks like HuK needs to take these out because these are definitely enough to supply block Junwi, and, you know, that's what he needs to do because then his push could win. And Junwi now moving in on these cannons on this expansion. What HuK needs to keep this HuK moving in with a ton of Templar, ton of storms everywhere. The Roaches really have nowhere to go to hide from this, and they're just going to be stormed to death. But Roaches have a very good armor, so they are not necessarily dead, especially with this burrow ability. A lot of them are healing more than they are being shot probably, and just pouncing up right on top of those Zealots, doing a ton of damage to the Zealots. And we need to see HuK bringing in some more units here. He needs to supplement this force, or else he's going to lose this expansion. And if he loses this expansion, he could very well lose the game due to his opponent's aggressive expansion. And looks like we're going to see IMJunwiPirme moving in. He's got to kill this pylon because it can stop these units from morphing in. That would have been awesome if he would have killed that, because he would have just canceled these guys and the cannons. That would have been very effective, but it looks like he went in to chase that High Templar, and not the most effective use of those Roaches. There goes the cannon. It looks like the Stalker's probably going to go down. But we're going to see HuK moving in a ton of Stalkers from his main base, just marching a big line out there. He needs to save the space, or he needs to have an alternative where he can very quickly bring his units in. It looks like these Stalkers are definitely going to be enough to kill this, but the question is, can IMJunwiPirme kill the space? He's going to just head up the ramp expecting to see another one. Maybe no, he's got scouting, but he is going to head up the ramp. Maybe to the creep where he can regenerate health better before an observer gets there. That's a very good play. You know, and then he can kind of pop up on top of these guys. But there is an observer somewhere. Right there, there's the observer. And it is going to see all these Roaches. And just blinking on top of them and killing them like crazy. We should see Roaches dissolving like crazy. But a good idea to just stop and fight. Because, you know, there's a point where you know you're going to lose a battle. And you just got to pop your units out and do as much damage as you can. But it looks like there's going to be a drop here. And High Templar just storming everywhere. And then morphing into Archons. There's another one here. And lots of Zealots coming in to fight the Roaches. Bad choice there. Should have been Stalkers. But, you know, he's going to kill like 3 Zerglings. And it looks like Junwi is just trying to kill these buildings. And it looks like Huck's actually attacking his own pylon. What is he doing that for? That's just odd. I'm not sure why he is doing that. But he is doing it nonetheless. And it looks like we're going to see mostly Archons here as the main composition for this army. And there is another Templar here. He did use a Storm, so he's looking for a buddy to meld. What is the command for that? To warp with. Can you warp? I don't know. Whatever. Odd choice of words there, Blizzard, but we love this game anyway. So it looks like there's an Immortal here. Immortal's good against Roaches, but bad against the Humble Zergling. The Humble Zergling kills this unit composition, except for the High Templar, which is awesome against Zerglings. Which, look at it. I got a new computer, so the units are actually watchable. It doesn't make you want to jab your eyes out when you see a little Zergling that looks like a bad cartoon. You know, that's what it looked like before. But we do see IMJunwiPirme taking another expansion, bringing a lot of drones down here, and you know, this is awesome. He's really helping his economy, and while both players are just sitting, not attacking each other, we do see IMJunwiPirme idling at about 500 higher mineral income, which just makes a massive difference because he's moving ahead by 500 minerals per minute. And we do see Huck at about 100 ahead, as far as 100, 200 ahead as far as gas income, which is good for Huck because he does have a pretty gas-intensive army. And now we see IMJunwiPirme moving forward with Zerglings and Roaches. Looks like he's going to try and attack this army. He needs probably more Zerglings to fight this, but the Zealots are going to be in perfect composition to take out that amount of Zerglings. Awesome for Huck. Awesome unit composition, and he just wins his battle hand down. So let's take a look at upgrades. We do see 2-2 for IMJunwiPirme's Roaches, and we do see 2 as far as weapons and 1 for shields for Protoss. But it looks like there's going to be another drop inside of Huck's base. Huck just taking a lot of damage. It looks like he may be able to take out this pylon, which would depower this gateway, unpower, whatever. And it looks like he's actually going to go for the Cybernetic Sword, which would allow him to cut off Stalker production, which is awesome. If he has just Roaches, then he could do a lot of damage if there's no Stalkers coming out. It looks like the Storm just going on top of Huck's own units. Huck's own units just running straight into that Storm, and it looks like the High Templar is going to move forward, kind of suiciding in with absolutely no point there, but he did absorb a little bit of damage, so, you know, better than just putting him to waste, having him stand there. But it looks like there's going to be a pretty good amount of Zealots coming out of this army. And, you know, Huck's got this Stalker here just sitting and attacking. And that's awesome because these Roaches are barely damaging it. And it's just sitting there kind of like, what is it doing with its legs? Repositioning itself every half second and just killing a lot of units. It looks like he's going to blink it back here. And he may lose a lot of his infrastructure. 1 gateway down so far. And it looks like there's only 3 pylons powering all of his gateways, maybe a 4th for just a couple of them. But we're going to see a lot of Zealots coming in, and that is what he does not need is Zealots. But it looks like this is not his army. This is not his concern. His concern is right here where he's marching a ton of Stalkers. There's a few Roaches here to defend it, but not nearly enough. There are a few more units moving in from the back, and they will be able to do a pretty good job. But Immortal's a very good choice, and, you know, he's going to be able to do a ton of damage against Roaches there, and awesome Storms just taking out this whole army, just doing a ton of damage on it, and it looks like we're going to see IMJunwiPirme kind of falling back, just trying to save his base, which is what he needs to do to keep the advantage here as far as income, and that is what's pretty much keeping him alive, is he can bring in such a massive army while Huck's, you know, kind of losing his gateways at the moment, actually, and we just got to kind of switch back between the 2 battles. Looks like this one's kind of simmered down. It's just Roaches taking apart the base. And looks, this is awesome. Roaches coming in a almost complete circle around these Stalkers. That is exactly what you need to maximize the damage of your force on the enemy. Awesome, there are a couple of Zealots heading forward. Zealots just absorbing a little bit of damage. It looks like these Stalkers are actually going to be able to take out this army, but IMJunwiPirme just bringing in so many units to support it. There's just been Roaches just flowing in. You know, those original armies could have been beaten by Huck easily, but, you know, that army that just kept flowing in and flowing in and flowing in was where Huck kind of lost that battle. And Huck now taking care of this. But look at this. This base is so different from the last time we saw it. There were a ton of gateways here before, and now there's not. You know, this is just a horrible production for Huck. He's not going to be able to macro up such a huge army anymore. And as he needs to keep these units alive. And it looks like he's bringing in Templars on the ridge. He's going to do a ton of damage with these guys. Doing a lot of damage, a lot of Storms. But Roaches, you know, they have so much health that Storms aren't as effective against them as they are against units like Zerglings. But that was some very good Storms on very low health units, and it did manage to pop a few of them. Boom! And then another one. Awesome, Huck. He's just catching them as they run away. So, you know, High Templars are awesome for this low gateway type of play because you can use them. They are very, very efficient units as far as, you know, production goes, because he does have the money to keep up with it, I'd say, especially with this other base coming up. That is not what he needs to worry about. What he needs to worry about is, you know, how many gateways he can have producing at once. And it looks like he does have a pretty good amount, but it's not, you know, the amount that he had before, and it actually is about the amount he can support. So IMJunwiPirme getting ready for another drop, and he's just going to charge right in with a ton of units because these have been so effective, especially considering HuK's lack of defense against him, and there's a lot of Zerglings in here, so he has prepared this army pretty much to kill anything that HuK has right now. So it looks like HuK is beginning to lose this game at this moment, and it looks like a few units just moving in and annoying, gonna bring in a ton of Templars up at this point just to deal with the small drop while in his main base. He's got this big hulking drop of 1,000,000 units about to fall into his base, which he doesn't even really have a use for this base, except for the 4 gateways that he does kind of need. And why isn't IMJunwiPirme dropping? Don't fly into the cannons, you'll just lose a ton of units. And it looks like he is going to fly right into the cannons, and he's just going to send his units into him. You know, like, I have such awesome production and economy, I don't even need these units. Here you go, HuK, take them, because I can use them to destroy your base. It looks like he's just going to take out these cannons, so he doesn't have any future problems really at this base. He needs to take this one out. This one's about to die, and he's fighting the other ones, but whatever. These units are going to be enough to kill the cannons. And taking out another gateway, taking out power from another one, and it looks like he's just doing so much damage to these gateways. You know, he's hurting HuK's production so phenomenally bad. And now he's attacking units, taking control of the watchtower, and just all over HuK's base. So this is the point where HuK is really, really losing this game, and it's going to take a miracle for HuK to turn this around, even though HuK did have such an awesome advantage in the early game, you know, blocking that expansion. A great play. This has been a very entertaining game, that's for sure. I'm glad I picked this one, thanks to GoSuGamers.net, where I have downloaded this and recently applied for a casting job. So, it looks like there's also a roach just sitting here, just a single roach, and a lot of overlords. Looks like they are going to get picked off, but we cannot tell by looking at supply if they will supply block IMJunwiPirme, but he is scooting out of that base, and nonetheless, why lose them when you don't have to? And it looks like his Zerglings are going to be enough to deal with a couple of these Stalkers, which it looks like it's just a lot of upgrades here, you know, taking place now. He does have 2-2 against his opponents. Let's find a unit. 1, and it looks like it's going to be 2, even though we do not have a... yeah, there we go. It's 2-1. So kind of HuK static with upgrades, static with unit tech, and, you know, almost static with his army. He's not able to produce as much as he was before, bringing in a ton of gateways, kind of emergency, stop the hemorrhaging. And it looks like we're going to see a lot of units ready to take this drop, but, you know, it's not the right composition for against him, and he is storming his own units. That's never good. You want to storm enemy units, not your own. Very bad, because it does hurt his own units. It looks like he is going to successfully thwart this drop, but not good enough. You know, he could have done a lot better there. He could have had a little bit better micro, and he could have even saved these Templars. Maybe lost a few more Zealots, but he does need to preserve units. That's a pretty big point as far as his strategy in this point in the game. More drops heading into his main. You know, I am convinced, though, that HuK did give up on his main. He's got no use for it. It's just 3 gateways and a forge, which now he is going to shoot down these overlords, possibly. Looks like he's going to take out one of them, and he will be actually able to deal with his drop and maybe salvage what he has left in his main. So that is good for him because, you know, even though it is just 3 gateways and a forge, he does have a use for them. And it looks like a few more roaches, but he is going to be able to pick them off. Imagine how dangerous Nidus Swarm would be at this point in the game. That would be awesome. Like, uh-oh, I heard it. Where is it at? Nidus Swarm somewhere in this map. Looks like, oh, hey, that is dangerous too, taking your economy to a whole new level using a Nidus Worm to support it. That's pretty cool. He's probably going to load that up with drones and throw a bunch of them in there. And it looks like there's a huge drop getting ready to go down now. He is loading a ton of units into these overlords. He's got a lot of overlords. You know, he could even load a few more roaches and... you know, do more damage. Sorry, I got off of my train of thought there. My sister just came into my room. And... it looks like he is just going to head out with these units. He's going to be able to take out this expansion probably, especially with all these units moving out. Not good for HuK. HuK has all of his gateways and all of his economy pretty much centered around this region. And these overlords just in their hulking little slow speed, just kind of creeping into the base, getting ready to do a ton of damage. It looks like the Nidus Worm's still just sitting there filled with drones. So that's good too. But it looks like he's going to drop a bunch of guys, and he is going to be able to take out this base quite easily because HuK does have units out, but HuK is going to return to the base. He is going to be able to blink up into the base, which he definitely, it would be awesome to see him blinking up into the base. But it looks like there's an Overlord here that is still full, and IMJunwiPirme just pushing on HuK's base. He may be able to kill the Nexus, and now his choices are fight the army or just go all in on this Nexus, which is what I would definitely do in this situation, because all in on the Nexus will have definitely a much greater outcome for the later game, which is maybe like 4 or 5 minutes into the game when we could see IMJunwiPirme macroing up a huge army. But HuK is just going to move in, and he is going to be able to kill this out even before an all-in on the Nexus would work. So good play by HuK. Good job at seeing that, which, that's a lot of what new players struggle with is, they're just too busy doing A, and they can't see B happening, using letters there, so that you new players can understand it. Sorry, guys, I know you're probably most of my subscribers, because this is what I did when I was new, as I watched this stuff. But it looks like we've got HuK. It looks like he's going to take more damage on this Robo facility, but he doesn't need it. He's not producing anything out of it. He's not producing any Immortals, maybe a few Observers, but not so much anymore. We're going to see a lot of High Templar here, but this is a pretty good setup to get stormed because he does have a long line, so rather than having a big clump where you can just drop 2 or 3 storms and, have them overlaying each other like a Venn diagram and just affecting so many units, it's got to be a line, like here, 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 and they can only affect those certain units. So, that may be a little bit to follow, but it's definitely better to have your units in a line to get stormed than a big ball. And it looks like this is amazing. HuK just bouncing back, having his main totally destroyed, having him pretty much be dominated for a very good portion of this match. He's just macroed up a huge army here, and look at all these Templars. They're all primed and ready to storm a ton of Zerg units. Not a good place to be for IMJunwiPirme, which IMJunwiPirme, on the other hand, is probably sagging in an income at the moment. No, he's not. He's actually doing a lot better as far as mineral income. He does have about 15, 14 actually more harvesters. But he is at about half the gas production of HuK. But this is where, I'm sorry, I didn't see this earlier. I didn't remember it when I was talking about income. This is where he's going to have so much income coming from as far as minerals, and then he'll be able to get gas, when these are done in like 30 seconds. And he is bringing in spy crawlers now to fight any drops that could come in here, or any like pylon type things where he could bring in, which is pretty much all he needs. A lot of players would go spore crawlers there, just to have the spore crawlers to shoot down dropships, because you see that as an immediate threat. But if he's just got a small amount of ground units, he's pretty much anticipating that his enemy is going to have a small force heading up here rather than the huge army, because then if he takes the huge army, he leaves his map pretty much open to attack. So, that's very good planning, even though it's kind of a long thought process to explain if you're kind of new to the game. Very good, though. And lots of drones moving around. They are moving around. That is my favorite phrase to use when I do not have the perfect word to describe it. They are moving in a massive gaggle into this this sphincter that is the Nidus network. And they are going to probably pop out of this Nidus worm and just start mining like crazy in the space, which is awesome. Awesome for Junwi. Look at that. He's just got a waypoint him, and then he just clicks this button, and then he's got, boom, instant economy like freaking OxyClean. Even though OxyClean is Banelings, I like to call them OxyClean because Flexer started doing that, and it's an awesome way to describe Banelings as they destroy a ton of Marines. But it looks like there's going to be a scout moving up here, seeing HuK's army, and this is probably going to have IMJunwiPirme a little bit surprised, because even though he does also have a massive army, he probably wasn't expecting that from HuK. But I would definitely give the advantage to IMJunwiPirme, because not only does he have an almost equally sized army, but he has that ability to bring in a ton of new units, and this battle may just fall to micro, because those Templar can do a lot of damage. But it all depends, because it just basically depends on how much longer the game runs, which I know you're all looking at the YouTube bar now, which I'm not going to spoil it for those of you that like my new little overlay that I've thrown over this in After Effects. High five. But, it depends on how much time is left in the game. You can easily tell who wins by that. But I'm definitely not going to say it, because IMJunwiPirme does have the ability to make a ton of units later, or just basically intimidate his opponent out of GGing early with his awesome economy. But Huck, his only chance is to win in the next few minutes, which is really what he's got to do with this army, because he doesn't have any long-term prospect of winning. But he is sending out half of his army at a time. Not a good idea. He needs to get those stalkers and those High Templars moving forward. Army out of position. Very bad. You don't want your army cut in half when you're fighting in huge battles. Bad, bad, bad. And it looks like, we actually do see IMJunwiPirme in just about the same state with his army cut in half, but it is in much better of a half, which is almost tactical, where he is going to be set up to, move out on this force. Let me get a drink. There we go. Now I had a drink, and I can continue commentating for the rest of the big battle. And, Huck, he has very limited options. He's getting out-macroed like crazy at this point in the game, where, he's got a ton of drones up here just mining like crazy, and he's got a ton of drones down here just mining like crazy. And Huck, he does have this base for long term and this base for short term, so maybe it could match him a little bit later, because this base is also short term and this base is long term. But IMJunwiPirme does have that other base coming in, and he's gonna pick off all these Zerglings, so that's not good for IMJunwiPirme. IMJunwiPirme losing pretty much his anti-stalker force there, because there aren't that many Zerglings left. Just taking a look at upgrades, there are still the same as they have been the whole match. Looks like we're going to see a lot of Templar moving forward. Don't use all your storms on that one group. That would be very bad, because there are more roaches, but a perfect amount of storms so far. Not moving the Templars forward. You don't want to do that. You don't want them in the front, because the enemy wants to pick them off, and you do not want the enemy to pick them off. And it looks like there's going to be a lot of overlords here. He doesn't really need to kill those. He doesn't need to waste his time. He needs to just go straight for the jugular and try and win this game right now, which his opponent is very far from supply blocked. That's not going to happen. Zerg normally builds a ton of overlords, and it looks like the units are going to close in. Lots of Zerglings moving in, and a storm going to waste there. Zerglings moving back into the storm, actually. A lot of storms. This is awesome play by Huck. He's charged up a lot of his Templars, and he's just going to do so much damage, but his units completely surrounded. This is like that one battle in the Revolutionary War, but his units just completely surrounded and taking a ton of damage. It looks like health bars are finally going to disappear, but, he did do a lot of damage. He may be able to take the game at this point. If he can kill these expansions, this game is likely his in the later game, which is not that later, but still, it's a very quick game as far as this moment. And he is taking out a ton of IMJunwiPirme's forces. This is where that what I said about Stalkers having that ton of extra damage on the roaches just really shows. And with these upgrades, these Stalkers are just cutting through these roaches. It looks like a couple Queens moving up forward, and they are the only thing left that can win this game. This is amazing if Huck can pull this off. But we do see IMJunwiPirme bringing in a ton of units. He's able to macro up this army very quickly. He does also have Ultralisk coming in soon, because he is upgrading the Chitinous plating. Or ground Carpus, sorry, do not, no Ultras, but it looks like there is a big battle now, and these roaches are just being demolished. So it looks like this game may actually go to Huck. And that's very surprising, because Huck actually, this is normally the type of play we see in the early game, where a player chooses, do I want to go macro or do I want to go micro? And Huck went micro, and Huck built an all-in army, a late game all-in army, and he may be winning with that late game all-in army, which is just awesome. Archon taking a ton of damage. Stalkers just watching these roaches shoot the Archon like, hey guys, we're over here. And the Archon, kind of just taking a ton of damage and living awesome. I could make a... Okay, so it looks like we're also seeing Huck taking out this base, now bringing in a pylon down here, and it looks like Huck may actually secure his advantage. If he can kill these overlords, he can take this base, and that is going to be the win for Huck, definitely. Wow, amazing. And, Huck, this is why I said he was a very good player in the beginning. He's just able to bounce back. And there's the GG from IMJunwiPirme. GG in Korean. If you see that, you're a good player. That's the rule. If you get a Korean to little house with a roof, GG you in Korean. That's awesome. So, awesome play by Huck. Awesome comeback. Awesome late game, all in, kind of. But, very good game. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys soon.